Hi, boys. Welcome to another Daddy Cast. We're learning about the Hittites on this page. The Hittites, 1600 to 1200 BC. Around 1650 BC, a number of small city states were united through warfare. The result was the rich and powerful Hittite kingdom. The Hittites consisted of several tribes, and they spoke as many as 6 languages. Among them, one was the language of the Hatti, the original occupants of Anatolia, which is now part of Turkey. The Hittites were the first to use iron, a metal that replaced the softer bronze. The Hittite Empire. The Hittites were a warlike people. They controlled the supply of iron, and they used chariots, which gave them a great military advantage. They worshipped around 1,000 gods, chief of which was a storm god. Early on, in 1595 BC, they sacked Babylonia, plummeting it into a dark age. Gradually, they conquered Anatolia, Syria, and the Levant, Lebanon, challenging the hold that the Assyrians and the Egyptians had on the area. Here it says that the Hittite territories at their peak around 1300 BC. Look, there's Troy. So they didn't control Troy. They fought with the Egyptians, the Assyrians, and the Phrygians, and their empire disappeared in less than a century. And here's Phrygia. The Hittites adopted civilized ways, such as writing, from other peoples. They also introduced the horse into the Middle East from China. Men were dominant in society, and they were rich and well traveled. The Hittites reached their peak around 1300 BC. The Hittites survived many threats until they fell to the sea peoples. Finally, they were destroyed and occupied by the Phrygians, who came from the Balkans to the north. The Hittites were never heard of again, but they had a strong influence on their neighbors. Over here, this Hittite stela, a carved standing stone from Anatolia, or Turkey, shows a woman doing her spinning while she speaks to a scribe who holds a clay tablet and pen. You can see the thread in her hand and the spool of thread. She's sitting on a chair. Here's the scribe with the pen in his hand and his clay tablet. The Hittites carved many works of art on boulders, shaping only part of the rock and leaving the rest in its natural form. This sphinx-like gateway once guarded a Hittite settlement located at Alaka in what is now modern Turkey. That's kind of interesting. The part left it part natural and part of it was carved. This Hittite rock-carved relief at Yazilikaya shows the protector god Sharuma with the goddess Ishtar in the background. The relief was carved around 1250 BC. Now we'll read about Babylon. I'm afraid the copy on this page didn't go as well as the previous page. If you want, it's the Kingfisher History Encyclopedia on page 21. Babylon, 1900 to 700 BC. Ur's, like the city of Ur's domination of Mesopotamia was followed by many invasions. Around 1894 BC, the Babylonians replaced their rulers with a dynasty that lasted 300 years. Here's Babylonia. Here's the city of Ur. The Babylonians began to dominate southern Mesopotamia under their sixth ruler, Hammurabi the Great, from 1780 to 1750 BC. He was a highly efficient ruler, famous for the code of laws that he laid down. and he gave the region stability after turbulent times. Babylon became the central power of Mesopotamia. The armies of Babylonia were well disciplined, and they conquered the city-states of Isin, Elam, and Uruk, and the strong kingdom of Mari. But Mesopotamia had no clear boundaries, making it vulnerable to attack. Trade and culture thrived for 150 years, but then the Hittites sacked Babylon in 1595 BC. All right, this picture, I'm sorry, is very bad. If you look in your actual book, you can see it better. It has some clear markings on it. It says a local boundary stone from Babylon is carved with prayers that ask the gods to protect the owner's land. Okay, it says the Hittites sacked Babylon in 1595 BC. Its cities continued for 100 years under different rulers. Then, for 500 years, Babylon was overshadowed by Assyria before its next rise to greatness. So they said a few things here. Babylonia took over various cities, but it's just a big plain. There's no clear boundaries, so somebody over here could attack you. How are you going to stop them? They didn't have the idea of building the Great Wall of China in Babylon, so they got attacked, they got taken over by Assyria, that kind of thing, by the Hittites. All right, early science. Let's read this part. Early science. The mathematicians of Babylonia devised a system of counting based on the number 60, from which we get the number of minutes in an hour and degrees in a circle. 60 times 6 equals 360 degrees in a circle. Babylonian scholars developed early sciences and astrology from the knowledge they gained from the Sumerians. All right, about this big tablet here. This stela shows Shamash, the god of justice, giving Hammurabi the instruction to formulate a code of laws. Underneath, down here, so this is Shamash. I think it's also the sun god. Shemesh is sun in Hebrew, so Shamash is probably the sun god. Here's Hammurabi. Underneath are inscribed the laws that Hammurabi codified for all to see. In this way, people were shown that the laws were given to Hammurabi by the gods. Hammurabi was famous for his detailed code of laws. Well known to us today is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, prescribing punishments for personal crimes. The laws brought all of Babylon under a uniform legal system. They protected the weak from the strong and regulated business and land ownership. Let's look at this archer. Skilled archers helped Babylon to defend itself against the Assyrians and many other invaders, Kassites, Aramaeans, Elamites, and Hittites. Its wealth and its location at the meeting place of roads from Asia to the Mediterranean was envied by jealous neighbors. All right, that's all for today.